Two watches, both priced from the same dataset on the same day in the same category. One is a Rolex Submariner in poor condition, scratched, battered, visibly finished. The other is a Dior watch that has never been worn, tag still on it. The wrecked one is worth more. £3,900 against £2,500. The finished Rolex is worth just over 1.5 times the pristine Dior. That is the watch shelf, one of the smallest corners of this dataset, and by some distance the strangest one we have measured. Start with what the shelf does as a whole. Take every watch configuration in the dataset, compare its price in each condition band against its price brand new with tags, and take the median of those fractions. That is the honest way to measure decay, item by item, not by dividing one average by another. In good condition, a watch keeps 61% of its new price. Everything else in the dataset keeps 47.5%. Worn all the way down to poor condition, a watch keeps 19.1%. Everything else keeps 13.8%. On both rungs, the watch shelf is the slowest decaying shelf in 80,000 prices. It is also, item for item, the most expensive shelf in the building. The median watch in good condition is £200. The median item in the whole dataset in good condition is £18.50, just under 11. And it is small, 490 prices, 98 configurations across 36 brands and 66 named models. It is 0.6% of 80,000 and 154 prices in the dataset. A tiny shelf behaving unlike anything else stacked around it. So watches hold their value, that is the folk belief, and for once the data agrees with the folk belief. The shelf is not one thing. At the top of it, Bulgari at £6,700 in good condition, Rolex at £5,675, Breitling at £2,950, Omega at £2,000. And at the bottom of the very same shelf, Seiko at £195, an Apple Watch at £167.50, Tissot at £130, Swatch at £92.75, Casio at £26. Rolex to Casio good condition against good condition is 214 times. That is the widest brand-to-brand range we have in any single category in this dataset. But pricing levels are the boring half of this. Expensive things being expensive is not a finding. The interesting question is not what a watch costs when it is new, it is what fraction of the cost survives being worn, because that fraction is the thing you cannot see on a shop shelf. And that is the thing the dataset is actually built to measure. And on that measure, the shelf splits hard. Beaumont's keeps 43.5% of its new price worn all the way down to poor. Rolex keeps 38%, Omega 35.6%. And at the other end, Olivia Burton keeps just 11.9% and Daniel Wellington 11.5%. 3.8 times between the best and the worst inside one category on the same rung of the ladder. Whatever happens here, it is not simply that watches hold their value. The obvious explanation is price. Expensive things hold on better, cheap things fall off a cliff. It's a tidy theory, but this shelf demolishes it. The thing that actually sorts these 36 brands is not the price tag at all. Group these brands by who they actually are. Companies whose business is making watches, technology companies, and fashion or jewellery houses that put their name on a dial. Watchmakers keep 66.7% of their new price in good condition. Technology companies keep 61.9%. Fashion houses keep 47.5%. Hold on to that number because you have heard it in this video already. It is the figure for the entire dataset. Every coat, every pair of trainers, every handbag outside of this shelf, to one decimal point, identical. Worn to poor condition, the pattern holds and then widens. Watchmakers keep 27.5%, technology companies 20.4%, fashion houses 12.5%. which is not just close to the wider market's 13.8, it is slightly below it. Which is the finding of this video. In resale terms, a fashion house watch is not a watch. It is a branded accessory that happens to tell the time, and the second-hand market prices it exactly like one. Two examples of how odd this gets. A Tissot is £190 new with tags and keeps 69% of that in good condition. A Bulgari is £10,625 new, nearly 56 times the price, and keeps 6. Bulgari is the most expensive brand on the shelf by both measures. Highest priced new, highest priced used. Nothing in the data contradicts that. What the data does say is that on the fraction it keeps, it sits below Watchmakers, costing a 50th as much. Those are two different things being measured, and people routinely collapse them into one. Or take the most disposable object in the entire category, an Apple Watch, a device engineered to be superseded, with a battery that will not last the decade, keeps 66.4% in good condition. A Gucci watch keeps 49.6%, a Dior 50%. At the level of individual models, it is starker still. A Dior Grand Soir is £5,150 new with tags. A Rolex Datejust 36 is £7,500. Call it 1.5 times apart. Now wear both of them to poor condition. The Dior is £8,025. The Rolex is £3,000. 4 times apart, the gap between them roughly triples on the way down the condition ladder. They started life as two expensive watches in two expensive shops. They did not finish as two expensive watches. Now the caveats, because this shelf is small and I'd rather you heard the weaknesses from me than found them yourself. 98 configurations is not many. Most brands here rest on 3 to 7 of them, so treat any single brand's percentage as indicative rather than settled. The 3 brand pattern is the most robust part, not the decimal places, and 7 of the 98 sit exactly on the dataset's default condition curve, which means their decay was never separately researched. Longines, Cartier and Hamilton are the ones affected, and not many of them appear in the single retention figure in this video. For what it is worth, the handful of watches carrying no brand at all keep 48.1% in good condition, sitting right alongside the fashion houses on 7 configurations, which is barely evidence. The 3-way grouping is also our judgment, not a column in the dataset. Bamford customizes other makers' watches, and we filed it with the fashion houses. Swatch we filed with the watchmakers. Both are arguable, and the pattern survives either way. The tier label the database does carry is no help at all here. Vivienne Westwood is tagged as luxury, and its median good condition is about £85, below premium tier Seiko, which is £195, which also keeps a fair fraction of what it cost. One last control, in this case, is really a story about precious objects rather than watches. If it were, the rest of the jewellery box would behave the same way, and it does not. Necklaces, earrings, rings, bracelets and fine jewellery together, 716 prices, keep 49.4% in good condition, with a median good condition price of £26. Remarkable on both counts. It is the watches specifically, and within watches it is the watchmakers specifically. Why is the part this data cannot tell you. There is no field in here for movements or servicing or how many of a thing were ever made. The dataset holds prices, not causes. What the prices do say is that this shelf sorts itself by who built the object, not by what it cost or whose name is printed on the dial. Which leaves the question the wrecked Rolex and the untouched Dior opened with. When the house sending you a watch is not in the business of making watches, what is the second-hand market being asked to price? If you want the research price for a specific watch, the lookup tool is linked below.